certainly changed. Guest introduction. Who do we have here with us today? Yes, ma'am. Tell us your name and what brings you to Toastmasters tonight.
Yeah, my name is Sushma, but you can call me Sue because I too struggled calling out my name when I was a young kid. I come from the land of temples and serenity, which is India. So far I have traveled 16 countries, and they taught me that you don't need to learn language to go and make new friends. So I am here to make new friends and learn and gain some wisdom out from you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Welcome, and I think, sir, in the purple. What's your name? Tell us what brings you in today.
My name is Clement Yaskowitz,
Hi, Clement.
and I just wanted to, I'm doing more and more public speaking, and I want to learn some techniques and ways to public speak.
Well, we got those for you.
Welcome.
And I think I see Ronald. Oh, hi, Ronald. What brings you back tonight?
I enjoyed last week, so I came back this week.
Nice. Well, welcome back.
Welcome back.
And I think Frank. Yes. Welcome back, Frank. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, it was really nice. Last time I came, I really liked the environment. It was really fun.
Awesome. We're happy you are here. Thank you for coming. We have some announcements tonight. Kevin.
Hello.
Hi.
I'd like to tell you guys about on August 22nd, we're going to have an open house.
Yay!
We're going to have food, and you can bring visitors and get excited. Bring your family, bring people that you want to show them what you're doing, or people at work. It would be exciting to have people come in and see what Toastmasters is all about. So it's something to be fun. Plus, I'll be looking to some people to get some help with food and different things. And who knows, you may have streamers and balloons. Okay, maybe not balloons, but we're gonna have fun. It's gonna be a good time.
All right.
August the 22nd.
Yes, sir. Thursday, August 22nd. Yes. Anyone else have any announcements? Colby? Oh, great.
Yeah, so I just want to reiterate, last week, we're gonna have the TLI, the Toastmaster Learning Institute coming up. So, the club will be paid for it. I'm gonna resend the email about that, and you can choose the date that you want to attend.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And then I'd like the Sergeant in Arms to escort out. We got Michael, Teresa, and Amanda, please, just for a minute. Oh, there he is. Will you escort them out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Forever. Get 'em out.
Forever.
We don't have to go as a pair, you know.
At this time, if I may, I ask the Sergeant at Arms and put forth a motion to approve membership for Michael, Teresa, and Amanda. I don't think John Halliburton is here?
No, he's not.
Okay. So those three?
Seconded.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Members, bring it back in.
All right.
Better than screaming your name. Come up here, we're gonna get a picture, although, can I borrow your phone? There's for Amanda, there you are. Michael. Oh, this is my first time doing this. Oh,
I can do it. I can do it, Kelly.
Unfortunately, Kelly, we voted you
All
out.
right, everybody come in. All right, everybody looking this way. On three. 1, 2, 3. Well, all righty then.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
President. Fellow Toastmasters, I have a question. How many of you have the least bit of apprehension about coming up here without preparation and speaking on a topic? I think most of us would say we have some level of it. In Toastmasters, we have something in most meetings called table topics. It's an opportunity to speak extemporaneously or off the cuff for 1 to 2 minutes on a question that you don't know about until you get up here. So there's really not any way to prepare for that. But it's a great way to grow, it's a great way to gain confidence as a public speaker. I encourage you, whenever there's an opportunity to take part in table topics, to raise your hand, to take part. You're going to grow in confidence. You're going to become more capable as a public speaker. That said, in most meetings, if you're lucky, you might have an opportunity to speak once. But there's a way that I'm going to give you right now that you can practice table topics on a regular basis as often as you like, wherever you are, driving in your car. When I was preparing for a table topics contest a number of years ago, I thought about, what if I just asked myself questions? I thought, what a great idea. So when I was driving, when I was walking, when I was not quite out of bed, I would ask myself just a random question and then I would start speaking about it. So it's a great way to be able to practice table topics wherever you are, when you ever have just a spare moment. Just talk on that topic to yourself or even out loud. I guarantee you it won't take long and you'll become more confident as a public speaker.
Well, it looks like we got an awesome meeting tonight. Let's start with give control over to our Toastmaster tonight, Tom Hotstadt.
Well, thank you, Madam President. Isn't it fun to say that to her?
It is.
Welcome, everybody.
I'm in the wrong seat.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
There we go. That's a little better. Don, that's a great toast tip. I really appreciate that. I think that's a very important thing. And just remember, as a caution, you are going to improve as a speaker if you do that, but what's going to happen is you're going to lose all your neighbors and they're going to give you a wide berth as you walk down the street talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? And I just did want to ask you, Don, because it was interesting that you're asking yourself questions. You ever surprise yourself with a question?
I have, yes. Where did that come from?
There's a split between cognitive and affect with him. That's called schizophrenia. Awesome. Great. I'm your Toastmaster tonight. I can start over. Welcome. Nothing important's been said, so you're okay.
Oh, good.
I get to pick the theme of the meeting, and I always like to pick a theme that's something that is going on in my life. And I wanted you to think about, you ever get to a point in your life where you start to go through like a hard time? You're going from a stage of your life that you were comfortable with, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into the unknown. I call that the wilderness. And it seems like it lasts a really long time. It's lasting for me a really long time because I'm still going through it. And you think, what the heck is going on? And it feels like this vast wasteland, and you're just sort of stuck in it, and everything that you're trying, or things aren't happening for you right away. It's really not that. It's a time in your life where life is preparing you for the next thing, for your destiny. And I think what I'm finding out as I'm going through this myself is that the important thing is that you've got to leave things behind. You have to let go of some things. You have to let go of the way that things were. And you don't think about people that hurt you or situations that were unfair to you or things that you don't have anymore. You have to start to think about, if you're holding on to this, you're never going to get to that. And the wilderness is where you find out really what you're made of. If you take an orange out of a tree and you squeeze it, what do you get out of it? You get orange juice, right? You don't get lemon juice or apple juice, you get orange juice. And when you're in the wilderness, you're getting squeezed, you get to see what's going to come out, what you're made of. And it gives you a time of introspection. So I think it's important that we think about this wilderness, especially if you're not in it, you're going to be at some point in your life. It seems like it takes a lot longer than it actually does. It's kind of like when you forget your speech and you're standing up here trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to say? And all of a sudden it comes back and you think, that seemed like 5 minutes and it was really about 10 seconds. Same thing with this whole part of your life, I hope. I'm gonna get past it, and I'm gonna realize it was a short amount of time. So think about that wilderness. You have to let go of the things that you were holding on to so you can get on to something that's gonna be even better. How about that? Well, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. Good job.
Or I should have picked old movies, I guess, or something like that. I'd like to introduce our general. This crowd is hard today. You guys are really good. I'd like to introduce our general evaluator tonight. She's amazing. Believe me, take my word for it. The great Kate Ewens.
Take your time. Take your
You
time.
don't mind, do you?
I know, yeah. Take all the time you need.
I'm very excited to be your general evaluator this evening. We do have some changes to the agenda, so I'm going to point those out first. We were missing a timer, but thank goodness Adwar showed up tonight. So
Yay!
Adwar is your timer.
All right, Edward.
Hobie has given over his ballot counting job to our new member, Teresa. So
Right,
she'll be our
Teresa.
ballot counter. Unfortunately, McGinnis is not able to join us this evening. So Gus, you're off the hook as evaluator number 3. Josette is going to evaluate our first speaker, and Steve is evaluating our second speaker.
Yes.
All right? Now we're going to introduce the functioning.
I'm sorry, before I do, Gus, would you like to take odd counter? So, because I'm doing double digit, would you be interested in that?
I don't think I'd be very good at it.
I tell you, think you gotta do it, this is the wilderness, right? Yeah, all right, way to go, Gus, right on.
All right, Gus.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to introduce our functionaries now. So when I introduce you, if you could stand and tell us what you're doing tonight. We will start with our lovely grammarian, Miss Evelyn.
As your grammarian, I will track any misuses of the language. I will track any creative phrases. I'm getting new glasses, by the way. Track any creative phrases during the discussions and prepared speeches, and announce who used the word of the day. The word of the day today is symbiosis, which is a mutually beneficial partnership between 2 or more organisms. And in the wilderness, there are many examples of symbiosis, but examples of symbiotic relationships can include bees and flowers in the wild wilderness, or in Tom's Wilderness, venture capitalists and entrepreneurs.
And our timer is Adwar.
Wow. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and most honored guests. Today I am your timer. My job is to time speeches, evaluations, as well as table topics. I will use 3 colored cards to signal times. This is something new. I just have to adapt to it myself. Green, you have the minimum time requirements. Yellow, you are halfway to the point, the minimum and maximum times. And when I show you the red card, you have reached the maximum time and you need to conclude the speech. And I would just like to confirm the times with Laxmi and Lana, 4 to 6 minutes for the icebreaker. Lana, it's 5 to 7?
Mine is actually 3 to 5. I'm gonna have a 1 to 2 minute introduction, and I'll let you know when you can start the timer.
Okay,
But it'll
that would
be
be
3 to
great.
5.
Absolutely. And then again, Josette and Steve, you guys will be evaluating.
Yep.
3 to 5 minutes. No, 2 to 3 minutes.
I was gonna say, wow, all right.
That's all I want to confirm. Thank you very
I can
much.
do that.
Right on.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And our odd counter is Gus. Woo, Gus!
The function of the odd counter, I serve as an umpire of necessary utterances. Listen to filler words, and I will do this every time a non-speaker, like the formal speakers, and if anybody else says something, you'll hear this. So,
Point of order, not for guests, though.
oh, and not for guests, yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Teresa is our ballot counter.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yay!
As your ballot counter, today I am going to go around and get all of your votes for your best table topic, best speaker, and best evaluator. Tonight, I would like to apologize because I was not ready 100%. So on the bottom of your last page, you have a couple of extra space. So just on the bottom, if you want to tear a piece off, and then as we evaluate everyone, if you can just write your vote on who you're going to be voting for.
Very good.
We have two wonderful evaluators this evening. So when I introduce you, if you could tell us what your speaker is going to speak about and what you're looking for. We'll start with our first evaluator, Josette.
Tonight we'll be hearing from Lakshmi, and he is going to be talking about himself and his life as an icebreaker speech. It'll be 4 to 6 minutes.
All right.
And our second evaluator is Steve.
Good evening. It is my pleasure and honor to offer feedback for Lana Barrett. Lana will be speaking on her Project 2 from the Speeches by Management book, and this is a praise with praise. This is all about the art of giving feedback. We want to make sure that this is positive. It's not about criticizing. It is about helping someone improve. Looking for a couple of key things, really accentuating the positive, praise progress. And Lana will be able to use this in her career as she goes about helping others steer their business presence, even though she is a senior leader without a team, which is pretty cool. So let's see how we do. Thank you so much.
That's all from me for right now. So I will pass it back over to our Toastmaster, Tom
This is horrible. Nobody wants this. They don't want this.
We want it.
We want you.
I know you're lying.
2024, Tom.
So needy.
This is a very symbiotic relationship. More of a parasitic symbiotic relationship, but that's a whole different thing. Anyway, at this, I would like to introduce in fact, I like it so much I'm going to do it. I'll introduce our first speaker tonight. This is a very special speech. This is the icebreaker. This is when you get up and talk about yourself, and the goal is just to come up here and be able to stand up and muscle through 4 to 6 minutes. We need a lot of support from you Toastmasters. Remember what it was like if you've been through it. I can't wait to hear it. Laxmir, everybody give him a warm.
All right. Yeah.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and dear honorable guests. How many of you know that a last name of a South Indian goes by their dad's name? And how many of you would know that the most common last name in US is Smith? Right, welcome. So I'm Lakshmi Narasimhan Agavamudan. I have expanded my last name. It's just 26 letters. So in India, back in India, we would have the last name initialized. It'll just be an A. But to suit it to American standards, I've expanded it. Yeah. So I was the middle kid of my family, and I did not trust me. I did not get caught into the middle kid syndrome. I had an elder brother who I used to be very fond of, and I used to be liking his company. I used to be having his friends as my buddies, and I used to drive their vehicles. I used to be playing chess and cricket, and we were very competitive, like you. I had a younger sister whom I was very fond of. She was very dear to me. She was the youngest, and I dared not to quarrel with her. About my birthplace, I was born in the land of temples, Trichy. Trichy is a city which is close to Chennai. Trichy has a famous temple which is 156 acres and has an entrance tower which is 236 feet tall. It has the famous cigar, Trichinopoly cigar, which was the favorite of Winston Churchill. From Trichy, being from Trichy, my mother tongue is Tamil. Tamil is one of the oldest language in the world. It predates back to 200 BC. That's the predated history. for Tamil language. So as you would know, English is not my first, second, but my third language.
Wow.
My upbringing. Most part of my childhood, I was in the western part of India. Being from the west, I naturally got those business tendencies into me. Being a kid itself, I was having crazy ideas on how to have a business, how to work on into stock trading. I used to read business journals and books on how to start a company. It was short-lived though. I'll come to that later. So as I mentioned, I'm from South India. My only option in career was to do engineering. If you don't do engineering, the society looks you down. They say, what are you going to do with your career? Are you not going to get married? My family had 3 engineers because my dad had only 3 kids. So with a lot of focus with engineering, I was damn sure that I'm going to get a job. It was short-lived though. My hopes went crashing down. As I got to know, my college did not have campus interviews. There was no campus placements. I took a career in BPO, business process outsourcing. I worked for one of the famous retail giant, Overstock.com. That is when I directly interacted with the customer. I pursued hard. I took up a job into one of the leading companies in India within just a year. As I mentioned, I'm very hardworking and have great determination, and I'm very ambitious. My dad was always supportive with my decisions. He was always having a positive outlook on me. So I have a quote here from Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest and the most intelligent who survive, but it's the one who can best manage change in his life. So from a career point of view, as mentioned, engineering was the only choice, but all other branches, but I had options to take where I can choose any type of engineering. It doesn't matter. I have to get into a software job. It doesn't matter, but you end up in a software job. My values. The values which my parents and society instilled in me still shapes my life today, and I'm very proud of that. I'm a person who likes to be constantly challenged, and if I'm not challenged, I feel like life is very dull. My takeaways. My dad once said, in kindergarten, you felt class 5 is very tough, and so on. So you should keep trying and not lose hope. I believe that in life, one door closes, there is always another door which opens up. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love icebreakers. We really get to know our newer members. Lax has been here for a long time, but dude, you rocked that. That was
Yes, you did.
really, really good.
Yes.
You can see how intelligent this man is, and you can see how gentle and what a great person he is. Doesn't it make you just want to go hang out with the guy?
Yeah.
Right? Except I'd always be afraid I'd feel stupid because he's so smart. Mr. Timer, can we have 1 minute for evaluations? And if you would, please take your speaker evaluation form and give Lax a great evaluation on his icebreaker. Thank you, Mr. Timer. If you would finish up, please. It's my pleasure to introduce our second and final speaker for tonight. Really excited about this one. Looks really great looking at the introduction. Lana Barrett is an accomplished Toastmaster. She recently received her Advanced Communicator Bronze, and she's now working in the Advanced Manual titled Speeches by Management. Her speech tonight will be broken up into two parts. The first portion will be a 1 to 2 minute introductory speech about the process of praise and feedback. And then the second part of her speech will consist of a 3 to 5 minute role play with another colleague who you're going to see, demonstrating feedback from the facilitator. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a real treat. Please welcome Lana Barrett.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, question for everyone. How many of you ever had a bad evaluation? Raise your hand by show of hands. How many's ever had a good evaluation? Probably everybody, right? Which one do you remember the most? Exactly. Praise and feedback. They do have a symbiotic relationship to a certain degree, right? Praise, on the one hand, has a long-lasting and impactful effect on our employees. And yet, managers still are reluctant to use it. There's not an employee manual out there that says, this is how you praise your employees, and this is when you should do it. And then when we look at feedback, well, feedback is a way to tell people how they can improve, right? And we do that here in Toastmasters all the time. We ask for feedback in our evaluation process. But there's a time and a place for feedback in the workplace. And in a feedback process, you want to make sure that, number one, it's in a private setting. And number two, you don't want to give your employees a laundry list of things that you want them to improve on. Because what does that do to them? It demotes them. It makes their self-confidence go down, right? So tonight we're going to show you a couple of processes on how to give praise and feedback. Feedback, again, is in a private setting, and you get 1 to 2 at the most for an employee. The praise process can be public or it can be private as well, but in a praise process, when you're praising an employee, it needs to come from the heart. It needs to be something that you've seen or witnessed from that employee and demonstrated. Because if you're just saying, oh, hey, Kate, really liked what you did today. Your hair looks fabulous. Great praise, thank you, and walk away. That's not heartfelt. But when you say, Kate, I really liked what you did last week when you were at such and such, that's a whole different story. Because then Kate knows that you've connected with her and you actually paid attention to what she was doing. So tonight we're going to demonstrate for you an HR process. They call it the sandwich, right? And it's called the praise, feedback, praise. And then we're going to also conclude and wrap up with remembering and talking about the feedback that we gave the employee and the action steps we're going to take, okay? Timer, you can go ahead and start the timer. Miss Kelly Jenkins, can you come up and be my colleague for this evening?
All right.
Hi.
Kelly, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
Glad
having
you're
me.
here. You're here for your mid-year review.
Uh-huh.
Yes, yes. I just want to tell you, you know what, last week we were in that sales meeting, and you know what, you did such an amazing job. I was completely shocked with how you handled the objections the customer was throwing at you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can tell you're really studying our methodology, our sales methodology.
I'm trying really, really hard.
Yes, I can see that. Well,
Thank
good.
you.
I'm really glad. You impressed me so much. Hey, I just wanted to let you know, so today when we're going to go through the mid-year review, what we're going to talk about today is I was looking at your numbers,
Okay.
and I noticed that right now you're about 85% of your overall quota.
Yeah.
And history kind of tells us that, you know, if we're at that point, that if we keep tracking in this way, you're probably not going to make your number this year.
Right.
And so I thought I'd come in, bring you in, and kind of talk a little bit about that. So can you tell me some overall feedback that you may have?
I know I can do a lot better than 85%.
Okay.
It's not very difficult to sell those coffee beans.
Okay.
But I am feeling very overwhelmed. It's very difficult to try and prioritize all these tasks that are on my plate. And I'm not really getting
any feedback from upper management. So I would, maybe someone can come in and help me figure out how to prioritize all these tasks that I have.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're spot on. I was looking at the Salesforce numbers, and I was looking at where you have all of your tasks set up in Salesforce right now. And I was noticing how you do have your priorities set a little off, maybe we can work to help you with that. One of the things I think would be really helpful for you is that if we start to prioritize maybe putting your sales calls at the beginning of the day and then putting all of your paperwork at the end of the day. I noticed that in your calendar, you have a lot of that on the other side of the side of the day where it's flipped and you go during the day. So if we could turn that around, I think that might be able to help you. What do you think about that?
I think that would be great. That's fantastic feedback. I'd love to implement that and get started, and
Fabulous.
I see myself hitting my numbers this year.
That's fabulous, yeah. So are you enjoying working here at Yucca Yucca Coffee?
I yuck it a lot. Yes, I am loving it. I'm so excited to be here.
That is awesome. Well, you know what? One of the things I really admire about you is that right when you came on board, you had the ability to build rapport not only with me, but with your whole entire team. It was amazing. You know, I also got some feedback. Your leader of Toastmasters called us and told us that you actually got elected to the Toastmasters. You're going to be the president of your Toastmasters club. Oh my gosh, we are so impressed that you're going to be representing Yucca Yucca Coffee at Toastmasters now. I am so pleased with that. Kelly, it is such a pleasure to have you here. Let's get together next week and talk about how we can help you with the prioritizing of things. I'm so glad that you came in. Thank you so much.
Very much. I appreciate all your feedback.
Thank you. Thank you. While this was a fictitious role play, the process is still the same. And the main thing was is that I wanted to try to hit on what Kelly has done well in the organization. She is doing 85% of her sales goal, and if you can't tell, I'm in sales. This is why I'm role playing this. But at her process, when she came in, I wanted to let her know, I've already taken a look at her numbers. I know where she's at right now, but what can we do as an organization to help her to improve? That's the feedback process. Praise process was that I was recognizing one of her accomplishments. She became a president of a Toastmasters organization. I was notified about that. I was letting her know that we knew that. And I was also letting her know that I really appreciate the fact that she's able to build rapport with others. And I was highlighting on that piece too. Bottom line is that overall, when you look at praise and you look at feedback, they do go hand in hand together. But if you really want to develop a winning team, you need to make sure that you emphasize the praising process more often. Look for finding ways to tell your people that they're doing a great job in every way that they can, in every way that you can. Madam Toastmaster, Mr.
Yucca, baby, that was great. I didn't need any coffee to sit through that one, man. That was good. What I really love about the advanced series of speeches, and especially when someone like Lana's giving it, is that not only do we get to see someone come up and show us what an accomplished speaker does, but we learn something from what she just did. And what she did was so important. If you're a manager, it really gives you a model of how you can treat your employees and how you can, with respect, and get things done. But it also treats us as employees. Don't you want to work for someone like Lana? And if you don't you want to go look for something? I mean, this is really great for everybody. So Lana, thank you. That was an excellent, excellent job. Now we don't need an evaluation. No, I'm kidding. Can we just have Mr. Timer? Can we have 1 minute for evaluations? Please take your other evaluation form and fill it out for Lana. Thank you, Mr. Timer. Please finish up your evaluation for Lana. And as you're doing that, it's my pleasure to introduce our joke meister for tonight. This is a really fun role to get up and tell a joke. And tonight, looks like one of our newest members, who doesn't want to be affiliated with anybody but herself, is going to come up and tell us jokes. So give it up for Amanda Parks. Amanda.
The duck walks into a bar. He walks up to the bartender, and the bartender says, "What'll it be?" The duck says, "I'll have a milkshake and grapes." And the bartender says, "This is a bar, we don't sell milkshake and grapes." And the duck says, "Okay," and walks away. A couple of days later, the duck walks back in. He walks up to the bar and he asks the bartender, he says, "I'd like to have some milkshake and grapes, please." And the bartender says, "I told you yesterday or the other day that we are a bar, we don't have milkshake and grapes." And the duck says, "Okay," and walks out. A couple of days go by. The duck walks into the bar again and he says to the bartender, "I'd like to have a milkshake and grapes, please." And by this time the bartender's alright. He says, "Duck, I have told you, this is the third time, we do not sell milkshake and grapes. This is a bar, do you want something to drink? If not, next time you come in here and you ask for milkshake and grapes, I'm gonna nail your feet to the floor." The duck says, "Okay," and he walks out. A few days later go by, the duck walks in, he walks up to the bartender and he asks the bartender, "Do you have any nails or hammers?" And the bartender says, "No, duck, I told you this is a bar." And then the duck says, "Okay, I'll take a milkshake and grapes."
You're very welcome, thank you. Well, that's what we can expect from our newest member, Amanda. Just makes me hungry because I haven't eaten anything all day. That's my problem. I would like to turn over control of our meeting now for our evaluation portion to our general evaluator.
I'm back!
Yay!
Our first evaluator this evening, evaluating Lakshmi's speech, is Josette. Hi, so this was Lakshmi's very first speech for us, right, as an icebreaker. So this is the chance for Lakshmi to let us get to know him, let us know a little bit more about who he is, where he came from, and what's important to him. And he definitely accomplished the purpose of the icebreaker speech. You did an excellent job with especially engaging the entire audience, all of your eye contact with individual members, and gauging how they're responding, if they're paying attention, and having that personal connection with each person as you spoke. You also, so audience engagement and audience awareness, and that connection, so very good job. The content was perfect. It was clear, it was fun and well organized. You referred to your notes minimally, and I saw there was a little moment of getting a little bit lost and noticing, and you found your bearings, and you did great, good recovery, and maintained that connection. So some things that you could work on, maybe slow down to enunciate a little more clearly as you're pronouncing words. The language that you chose, the words that you chose to describe yourself and your life and tell us more about yourself were excellent, clear words. Just slowing down a little bit could help more. Also, for gestures. So we learn how to use the space a little bit more with our bodies moving back and forth, and also our arms and our whole bodies. And so that's a place to challenge and grow. And so you did move, you weren't completely still, so you did move, and so there are some other natural movements that might help keep you present and aware of what you're thinking and where you are in your speech. And so one suggestion is to notice with speakers that you admire, whether they're here in our Toastmasters Club or online or on television or film, notice what the vocal variety is, notice what some of the body movements are, and allow that to become incorporated into your own natural style. It's a real pleasure to get to know you more. You did such a great job, and we're all so proud of you.
Yes.
I believe that was Josette's first evaluation, was it?
All right.
Our second evaluator for the night is Steve, and he's evaluating Lana's speech.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters guests, and most especially Lana. Lana, that was a great speech. I think it goes without saying that your core essentials are really on target. You came up here, you established eye contact. I really noticed that you did a great job connecting with us and establishing poise on the stage. You're very crisp, you're easy to follow, you're organized, and I really enjoyed that you brought Kelly up. And clearly Kelly was ready for this as well. That was fantastic. A couple things as we get into content. I also am in sales. I have the opportunity to help others, as I described, steer their business presence. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have direct reports. It doesn't necessarily mean that I get to have one-on-one coaching conversations. Like you, I wonder sometimes, is the feedback piece really necessary? I think it is. I think we have a tendency as senior leaders to project a certain way of behaving and striving, healthy striving. It's not perfectionism, it's how can we help everyone be better. When you're in a situation like this, I think it's important that you establish really comfortable surroundings. The first thing I would recommend for you is sit down with Kelly, because in the real world, you absolutely would want to have a face-to-face, pull up the comfortable chair and let's get right here. You said something wonderful. Feedback should come from the heart, and I agree with you. I think that's really super important. Something else I noticed is that you want to watch the difference between advice and feedback. So when you're saying, I just love your passion, and that's great to say, but then it feels like you sort of got a little bit into advice. Your priorities seem a little bit off, is what I heard from you. And I might say, let's maybe consider saying, I noticed that you haven't exceeded 85% of your goal. What can I do to clear your path? As your leader, your success is so important to me. And that might be a way to give that back to her and help her get some skin in the game. I felt that this was definitely strong. I think there is an opportunity to be more specific about what she did well. You really engaged that she was a good fit with the company and she was passionate and you liked her energy. What else did she do well? And maybe there's an opportunity for you to say, I think that you're such a great performer and you're such a great fit. Can you tell me maybe one or two things that you really love about this? What is going well for you? And then that opens the conversation so that you can continue the what's going well for you before you offer some feedback, and it's really safe for her to hear that. Overall, Lana, I really loved that you were so on point, so prepared, so present. It's clear that when you lead with your heart. And I have utmost respect for a professional that can do that. Whether it's here or in the real world, I'm sure you take it. So thank you so much for the speech. It was wonderful.
All right.
Can I please have a timer's report, Edward?
Yeah, so the speakers Lakshmi stayed within the 4 to 6 minutes at 5:43. Lana did well too. She stayed between the 3 to 5 minute mark. And same with the evaluators. So it's time to vote, guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Edward. So if you can vote for who you thought was the better speaker and the better evaluator. And Teresa will be around to collect your vote. I'm going to pass it over to everyone's favorite part of the meeting now. Joseph is going to lead us in table topics.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Yes, I'm following Kate back to her desk. That was a terrible shake. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
They just stick with me. If I shake hands with somebody and it doesn't feel right, it doesn't have that solid. We both had a grip. We both felt it. We weren't too hard, weren't too soft. Table topics. This is the most exciting part of the whole meeting, except for the speeches, which were outstanding. Symbiosis. When I look at that word, I think this is our opportunity to work together. I'm going to help give you the opportunity to speak. If you weren't planning to speak and you didn't have a role, The one thing that concerns me is there aren't too many people in that spot. Can everybody who doesn't have a role today raise their hand, please, that's not a guest? That's what I thought. Okay. So we're going to roll, and we may pull some other people in from our guests pool. Welcome guests back there. This is your opportunity to get up here. You're going to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. This is really simple. I'm going to ask a question. You're going to come up. You're going to speak. You're going to hand it back over to me, and I'm going to let you go. It's going to be really exciting. If you like what I asked, then I want you to engage and answer that. If you got nothing, then I want you to take it in a different direction. You have the option to do that. So, with first one, I'm going to actually call on Kevin and ask him to start walking up this way.
All right, yeah.
Kevin, if you were stuck in the wilderness somewhere on the planet, where would you want to be and why?
I love this question. Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. I would like to be in the absolute coldest part of the country I can be in, like further than the North Pole. And the reason is I want to see a narwhal. And that's where they live. Do you know what a narwhal is? It's a unicorn whale, right? And they have, their eyes are like way up on their head, so when they swim, they probably kind of look like this. And they got a horn like a unicorn. I want to see one of these. How exciting would it be to be freezing your butt off and thinking you could die at any minute, and you get to see a narwhal? What a fantastic question.
I will. The word of the day is symbiosis. You can use symbiotic, symbionity, probably not that. Stick with symbiosis or symbiotic. Michael, I'm going to call on you next.
All right, Michael.
All right, Michael.
So, Michael, the question is, if you were in the wilderness in Arizona and you had only one tool, what would it? You have your clothes. What would your tool be? Go for it.
Thank you. If I were in the wilderness in Arizona and I could only have one tool, it would probably be a satellite telephone, honestly, to save myself. That's an obvious, easy answer. Probably some shade. What do you got for questions other than that? Sorry, I have nothing unique to say.
Well, you can run there with shade.
I'll take another next question.
Next question. If we were having a Toastmasters meeting in the wilderness,
What tool?
where would it be?
Ooh, this is exciting. This could be anywhere in the wilderness.
Anywhere in the wilderness.
I think it would be in the jungle because I think that's where we would get the most number of guests to come into the meeting. And as we know, guests are a new source of lifeblood into the meetings and into the groups. And that would be also a very exciting, I don't mind coming to Midway Chevrolet, this is great, but the jungle would also be very fun as well.
Word of the day?
I think when we're in the jungle, we would, with all those jungle creatures, be able to form an excellent symbiosis amongst them and our Toastmasters. What do you think?
All right. Good job.
Gus, can you bring me the clicker? At the beginning, when I counted that we would do Kevin, we do Michael, and we do Gus, and then all of a sudden, right before we started the meeting, Gus got the clicker. I'm like, come on, really? So Gus, what's the wildest table topics question you can come up with, and how would you answer it?
I give me a second to think about that.
I'll just do a previous question.
That's okay.
Could you repeat one of them?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you were in the this is perfect. If you were in the wilderness in Arizona and could have only one tool, what would you choose?
if I was in Arizona and only had one tool, I'd probably have my cell phone, not to call for safety, but I gotta check my Instagram. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be under the rock in the shade, and I would just going through Instagram. That's what I do at work, so why not do it have it be a symbiotic relationship? Yeah, the same thing everywhere.
Last question. We're going to go to our guests. And I'm going to choose, actually, I'm going to read out the questions so you can be thinking on your way up here. So far in life, what's the best place you've ever been to that's out in the wilderness? I'm going to start with Frank.
Frank?
Is there a Frank?
Do you want to?
That's all right.
Okay.
Dude, that's all
That's all
right.
right.
Don't sweat it, man. Can I go with Sushma?
What's the question?
Yeah, that's okay.
What's my favorite place?
Favorite place in the wilderness that you've experienced?
Do you want to go up front? Or do you want to talk there?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
Or you can answer one of the previous questions.
That's right.
You're like,
You're allowed to take this anywhere you want to go. Really.
Please, the best place I've visited so far is Bhutan. It's a country, and the best thing about that country which I liked is the per capita income of that country is the lowest in the world. But when you enter that country, you can see that that country is as clean as US or Singapore, and everything is maintained by people, and they take a pride in saying that we are Bhutanese, and they have a high level of regards for their king. So I love that place because everything is owned by people and for the nation.
It's a nice
Yeah, so I'm so sorry. So they have been maintaining a very good symbiotic relationship between the ruler and the people of the country.
All right, excellent. Woohoo!
Outstanding, Sushma. All right.
Keep going, we have till 7:49.
That's right.
You can ask
Everybody goes tonight.
You can ask previous questions if you want to, or you can come up with some on the fly.
Yeah.
Okay, so for now, we're going to ask a softball question.
Oh, no.
And we're going to go. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to pick on Don. If that's all right.
Okay.
Don, what is the best experience that you've had out in the wilderness?
All right, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Meister. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, in the wilderness, I think when we think of the wilderness, we think desert, mountains, heaven up in the ice. But there's another wilderness many of us have never experienced. It's under the water, in the ocean. And one of my greatest adventures and experiences was a number of years ago. I had an opportunity to visit the Galapagos Islands. Many of you have seen it on TV. It's a beautiful location. And I had the opportunity to do several scuba dives in the Galapagos Islands. Now the first one, I almost died. I was in a location where the water was extremely cold. I didn't have my own wetsuit. I had gone to this location, and I'm a big man, and finding a suit my size was difficult. So the suit that I had was way too small. We started descending the water, and the suit was so tight I could barely breathe. To be able to keep oxygen in my lungs, I had to pull out my suit, allowing the water to go in. And as I'm descending, I'm finding that cold water and the inability to breathe, not a good combination. Finally, I got down to 60 feet in depth. And all of a sudden, I got hit with what's called a thermocline. Now, thermocline is when water from different parts of the country or different parts of the world come together. And down there was some water that was coming up from the Antarctic, and it was extremely cold. And when I got hit with this thermocline, I freaked out. And I started to come up to the surface way too fast. I've been warned not to do this, but in my training I was also given some other advice that when you're making an ascent very quickly, you always exhale. Even though it doesn't feel like you have any air in your lungs, you exhale. Fortunately, I had the presence of mind to do that. Otherwise, my lungs would have exploded. Fortunately, I'm here because I learned the lesson and I was able to put it into practice under stress. That was one of my greatest adventures, Mr. Table Topics Master. And I had a symbiosis with my scuba instructor at that moment.
Okay, Hobie, appreciate that. I have a question for you. Hobie, so the question is, what kind of animal would you not like to meet out in the wild?
I would think the animal that I would not want to meet was probably the snake, because I've been learning that snake have a different color, and you know that right now I don't even know. I know that the bright one is dangerous and something color. Some is dangerous, some is not dangerous. So that is the most confusing thing that I want. I mean, I would be afraid of. So what I would be learning about this is probably walk in the wilderness, walk very careful. If you see a branch, that branch can be how the snake form a symbiosis relationship with a tree, using their color to hide from us. And I would not try to step on the branch, just try to having fun of stepping on the branch, because that can be the snake instead of the branch, and that snake can come up, either bite me and cause me death, or just bite me, scare me to different direction. Otherwise, I think that's probably what I'm scared of. Yeah?
Kelly Jenkins. Can you tell me who in your family you would want to help you out if you were stuck in the wilderness and why?
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I would, well, my brother comes to mind, but this is the one good thing about my ex-husband, is that I want him to come help me. Amazingly enough, I can't believe I'm saying this. He was, every time we'd go camping, he knew snakes. Red on black, friend of Jack. Red on yellow, not friend of fellow. You know, I mean, don't touch that, you can't eat this, you can't eat this. We would watch the Survivor shows, he would know everything. He can start fire without flint or lighter fluid, and he knew how to use a machete, and so I learned a lot from him. And that's actually who I'd want to come out and help me, although our symbiosis is no more.
Okay, last question. I'd love to defer to my guests. Please raise your hand if you're a guest, and then put your hand down if you don't want to speak. Wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ronald, come on up. Thank you for stepping up.
Yes, my pleasure.
So I want you to think about a time when you were in the wilderness, and I want you to think about what you learned while you were there. And if you never were in the wilderness, then maybe you saw it on TV and you learned something there. Okay. So either way, just some time where you learn something and share what you learned.
Okay. Pleasure to be here, everybody. Thanks for having me. Okay, let me stop saying, I hear him. So, yeah, click me, definitely. I mean, I like to grow. I definitely like to grow. And anytime I've been in the wilderness, I'm from Alabama, so we have a lot of, wildlife and stuff like that down there, So, something I've learned, nature. I like to connect with nature. I feel like you can learn a lot just by embracing what's natural. Especially we have so many distractions now, with the cell phones and the computers, and at work I sit in front of the computer all day. I mean, that's what we do. So just to get outside in the elements sometimes and get some symbiotic relationship with animals there, or just taking in fresh air there. You can see the stars better there than you can in the big city. So I enjoy time with nature. I really do.
All right.
You got about 20 minutes.
Now you have to admit it's pretty amazing that you write down something and I ask it before I even look at it. I'm like, okay, so we got the same questions. The Joke Meister, Amanda.
All right.
And I want you to think about your favorite TV show that's tied to the wilderness. And I want you to tell us what it is and why you love it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Table Talk Masters, guests, and distinguished Toastmasters. The only show I can think of that is dealing with the wilderness is like the Swiss Family Robinson, which was really cool because they had like that big tree house and they were riding llamas, and like where all these animals came from, no one knows, but they were just there on the island, so that was really cool. I hated that show, Gilligan's Island. That was like the worst show ever. But I do have a real quick funny story about the wilderness. So a couple of years ago, we took our niece and nephew camping with us, and then we had a good time camping, and then we're getting ready to pack up and leave, but we can't find the keys to the truck. So we're looking for these keys, and we can't find them, and I try and incentivize my niece and nephew. I'm like, whoever finds the keys is gonna get ice cream when we get into town, because otherwise kids look like, oh, I didn't see it. So I'm trying to incentivize them with ice cream to see if they can get this. So we're like digging through all this stuff, this and that. And we, had been camping, so we had gone out in the woods, and Mike's like, we've gone through everything. We've gone through all of our bags. Mike has to go to like the toilet area to try and like look and make sure it didn't fall in there. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. I can't believe we can't find these keys. I had put them in my sweatshirt pocket and then packed up my sweatshirt. And so I told Mike, you don't have to dig in that anymore. And then the kids are like, oh, yay, who won the ice cream? And I said, we all did. It was a great adventure. Let's never speak of this again.
Thank you, Amanda. I beg your forgiveness because I'm going to keep calling on people that are already doing stuff. Evelyn, it's your turn.
All right, Evelyn.
I mean, we're talking about the wilderness, right? Now, the interesting thing about this question is you would be my answer. Okay. So you're going to have to come up with a good answer for this one. In this group here, in the club, if you were stuck in the wilderness, who would you want to have with you and why?
That's a tough question. Well, let's see. If I were stuck in the wilderness, I would pick Kevin, except that I really don't like cold places. And every time he talks, he's talking about cold places, which made a whole lot more sense when you had the whole beard thing. Who would I want? Well, I'm gonna ask the question, who here goes camping a lot? Ooh, there's some good people. So maybe Michael and Amanda would be great. They go camping a lot. I love to be out in the wilderness, but I don't know as much as I would like. So I went camping as a kid, but it was one of those drive up to the campsite and we had the tent, but we also had the camper, so it wasn't really camping, and there's a restroom that you can walk to. Not really the real type of wilderness type camping. I would love to learn, so if you guys do that, then maybe we can have a symbiotic relationship with
Yeah.
you, Tom, and go camping sometime.
And Evelyn, I really was thinking of you. I was picturing, you know, we're out there in the wilderness and we see an animal and you're like, for this one, we just need to run, you know, versus stare it down, you know, or act bigger.
Nutrition.
So with that same question, I'm going to go to one last person here. Josette. So you're gonna just tell us the same question. Who in this club? And it can be somebody that didn't show up today, although if you're thinking about it, I mean, I wouldn't want somebody who wouldn't show up.
Oh. Thank you for the excellent question and the loophole that I will exploit. Fellow honored Toastmasters and distinguished guest. If I could pick someone in this room or someone in our club who is not present, I would pick John Silva because he has a military background. He is very courageous. He figures out, part of his specialty is acknowledging and cultivating symbiotic relationships among different types of people in different types of roles. So that's so that loophole really helped me figure out immediately who I would, and I enjoy his company. He happens to be my mentor in Toastmasters and also a fellow coworker at our organization Goodwill. And he has anecdotal stories from camping. He does currently camp and spends time with family and extended family in the wilderness and traveling. He's been around the world. He's faced survival situations for real. And hands down, that would be the one who's not in the room. Thanks for the question.
Still got time for more.
I wanted to say we're going to keep on rolling, but no. And then when I do something like that, I think, this is getting recorded.
That's right.
So I'm going to pass this back over to our general
Oh, we got time
evaluator.
truly, we got time for more. Don't we? Yeah, we got 5 minutes. We have time for 2 more.
Okay. You know, it's funny. Earlier today, I was at a Toastmasters club watching Table Topics. They did 3, you know. So I came here with 6 questions, and we're like, okay. So the next person I'm going to call up, Steve. Please come on.
Lay it on me.
All right. You're going to be in the wilderness, but it's going to be dark. Tell me where you'd want to be if it was dark in the wilderness. And so start there. Good luck.
Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Table Topics Master, and honored guests, I have to tell you, if it was dark, I wouldn't want to be in the wilderness at all. Just full disclosure. However, if I really had to pick a place, oh no, I get to think. You can click me all you want. I'm going to keep thinking. That's okay. Think about that. I would say, just to ensure that I have as much symbiosis as possible with myself, my surroundings, and other things, I would put myself in the middle of a national park. Preferably one that was out west, so that I wouldn't sweat to death in the humidity of something back east. Preferably because I understand the risk of snakes and I know what to do when I run into a Gila monster, and the trails are usually better maintained. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to put myself probably at Yellowstone or at Yosemite, southern Yosemite, if I had to pick. But again, I don't know if I really want to be in the wilderness for real in the dark, just saying. So you agree with that? Thank you, Mr. Kip. I just want to say, camping is a 3-star hotel.
All right, this is the last one, you guys. And I'm really going to buck tradition here. And I'm going to call up John. I didn't see you behind the pole. Come on up, John. All right, John. I want you to tell me if you were in the wilderness and you wanted to run across an animal on land. On land. What kind of animal would you like to run across in the wilderness? This isn't Rainforest Cafe. I mean, we're talking wilderness.
Mr. Table Topics Master and fellow Postmasters and honored guests. I would want it to be something small. Because I was getting a big kick out of the last one, and the only thing that bothered me is both places, Yosemite and the other one, are full of bears. Lots and lots of bears, especially Yosemite. I've been there a lot. Yeah. So I think I would like to run into a ground squirrel. They're cute and they're fuzzy, and occasionally you can feed them, nuts or carrots or something like that. And they're definitely not going to bite you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, in the process, we'd set up a symbiotic relationship. Me and the nuts and.
There you go.
All right.
So that's officially the end of Table Topics. This is my first time doing Table Topics.
Baptism by
I
fire.
know what a nerve-wracking role it was to do Table Topics. I thought just speaking in Table Topics was hard. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate everybody's
timers report.
Participation. And before I end here, I'm going to ask for a timers report.
All right, since we have such a long list, I'm just going to go ahead and state the ones that
are good.
David. That would be Michael, Don, Hovey, Ronald, Amanda, Josette, Steve, and John. And I think all of them, but Amanda, if I'm not mistaken, used the word of the
That's
day.
not up to you, brother.
No, I'm sorry.
Word of the day from the grammarian.
Word of the day from the grammarian.
Stay late.
Table topics, the people that used the word of the day were Michael, Gus, Sue, Don, Hovey, Kelly, Ron, me, Josette, Steve, and John. And then besides table topics, Tom, Lana, and Joe also used the word of the day.
All right.
Okay. Everybody's going to vote. Grab your slip or tear it off if you need to do that. And and I'll return this back to the general evaluator, Madam General Evaluator.
Third time's the charm, everyone. Here I am again for the third time. We are going to start with our functionary reports. So, can we please have a report from the grammarian?
Overall, we did a fantastic job. I didn't really hear any inappropriate uses of the English language, except for that. There were some great uses of phrases and words. Tom talked about wilderness as a position between two areas of life, old and new, and I love that picture. Lakshmi mentioned Darwin's sentence of, it's not the strongest or the smartest, but the one who can manage change in your life. I like that. Lana talked about praise needs to come from the heart, which is very important. I love that. I love the unicorn whale. Just, it gives you the picture, and your actions were awesome. And then Sue talked about the symbiotic relationship between the ruler and the people of the country, which is something we don't hear about a whole lot. I really like that.
All right.
had 1 3 ums, 1 double clutch. Dawn, just 1 double clutch. Kelly, 1 and 1 so. Lakshmi, 2 2 ums, 2 so's, 1 pregnant pause, and 2 double clutch. Lana, 1 2 so's, and 2 double clutch. Josette, 5 1 1 so, and 1 double clutch. Steve, 1 1 pregnant pause, and 1 double clutch. Joe, just 1 so. Kevin, 1 like. Amanda, 2 ums and 3 so's, and Evelyn, just 1 and.
Good job.
My GE closing summary is the exact verbiage on this agenda, in case you were wondering. First of all, I love that this lectern is on this lectern. I like it a lot. So whoever's idea that was, I really am digging it. I loved Josette's evaluation. Great job in your first evaluation. I liked how confident you were and you had great suggestions for Lakshmi. And Steve, I loved that you evaluated Lana's speech because you're both in the same business, and I thought it was very well done. Good job. Also, Kevin, side note, Buddy the Elf did see a narwhal. Have you seen Buddy the Elf? Have you seen Elf? The movie Elf immediately came to mind when you were talking about the narwhal. He tries to help him find his dad, so you should watch it. Probably at the Christmas time, but Christmas in July is a thing, so you could do it in July if you tried. I am now going to call for the ribbons from Teresa.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and most honored guests. Today, I would like to bring up our guest today. I'm so sorry, but I don't remember your name. You're wearing a purple shirt. And we would like to welcome you to our group today. So if you'd like to come up. And I would like to take a picture.
Yes, with both of you.
Okay.
And holding up the ribbon, if you would. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good.
Good deal.
Again, I'm gonna apologize because I left my notes on the table and I forgot some of these. Okay, so for best table topics. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hobie. Appreciate that. Okay. Do I go in order? I'm not quite sure.
However you want to do it.
Okay, so for best table topics, I would like to bring up John for the table
Very good.
Loud and proud, okay?
Stand next to her, John, if you would. Why don't you hold it up, hold up the ribbon.
Hold your ribbon. Loud and proud, remember?
There you go. Ready? 1, 3. 1, 2.
Pass it over to our Toastmaster, Tom Osborne.
All right, Tom.
Hey, what else I'm telling you is keep energy up top.
Oh, give it up for Kate. What a great I really think we should be giving it up to Joe. He did some yeoman's work up to Joe. Doesn't he look like Elton John? No. Elton Joe. Anyway. My closing comments, this whole idea of the wilderness, it's a place that we end up going at different times of our life, and when we're in them, we have to recognize that you're not gonna stay there. And there are things that you can do as you're waiting for the good Lord to pull you out of that. When you're in the wilderness, it's really beneficial if you go out and try to help somebody else. Try to be a blessing in somebody else's life. It really makes time go a little bit faster, makes your life a little bit more meaningful. And when you're in Toastmasters, you can always get stuck in the wilderness of your club and maybe not volunteer for a position at the next meeting, maybe not speak for months and months. You really need to do that. You need to get yourself out of your comfort zone to do that, because, ladies and gentlemen, you can sit in this meeting and that does not make you a Toastmaster any more than sitting in the garage makes you a car. I mean, you have to do something to actually make it happen. So think about the wilderness this week, and again, it was my pleasure to be your Toastmaster tonight, primarily because I didn't have to answer a table topic. I'd like to turn this back over to our president, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that was an awesome meeting. I'd like, Edward, if you can escort John out for just a moment. Just a moment, John. Can you walk outside with Edward?
It's a narwhal.
Bad. Now I kind of forgot the words, but I set forth a motion to vote John into the Unity Speakers Club.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, get John back in. We gotta do that.
Order the arrows.
We want to welcome you to Unity Speakers. Thank you for joining our club. Also got a pin for you, sir.
Oh, we got the gifts and stuff. We got a coffee
Yeah.
mug, you know.
I was really nervous to get up there, but like you guys said, if I don't participate, it's not really gonna help me. But I'm trying. It's not hard enough.
No, you're fine. We're here to support you. Thank you for coming. Sue, how was your experience?
Yeah, I love your energy and the symbiotic relationship with all the Toastmasters here. So I enjoyed being here.
Good, thank you.
All right.
We're happy to have you back. What do you think?
I like it. I'm looking for ways to grow, and I think this is definitely a way to grow.
Yes, it is.
Like it or not.
I'd love to hear your opinion of how tonight went.
Seems like a great group of people, a lot of energy, and I look forward to coming back.
Excellent. We look forward for you to come back. Thank you. Things real quick. We have dues are due. I'd like to give plenty of notice. They're due by the end of September. We're going to get dates on when it all needs to be submitted, but just a reminder. And continue working through your pathways. Like Tom was saying, you gotta come here and do roles. You gotta figure out your path and your curriculum so that you can get to that distinguished Toastmaster level. That's what we're trying to achieve here, like Lana is. Lana's got 16 speeches left, so how may I help? Okay, 15 now, so yes. Super proud of you. She's also sponsoring a club called Mindful Speakers, which is fantastic, which is every first and third Tuesday of the month. You're welcome to come check that out as well. And remember to be you and not them. And thank you and have a great night. Meeting adjourned.